In the top right is the blue Zerg from Colombia. It is eGGz. Super team.
That's a great nickname. A great team name, rather.
Yeah. Their logo says Super Team, but the Wikipedia says Team Super. Which one do I believe?
I like Super Team way more.
Yeah, I do too.
Team Super is all right, but Super Team, it's like, wow, these guys are good.
Yeah, Erik was in Korea last year, right? I remember we had that kind of weird day where there were 3 players on that broadcast day that were not in their, I guess, the flags that are next to their names. So there's like colors, they're always in the Netherlands. And I guess maybe that was also when Special was in Korea. I don't remember. And then I think Erik was as well. So that was a bit amusing. I assume he's back, but I actually don't know.
Yeah, I do. I know he did absolutely love his visit to Korea a long time ago during that Olympic event. Hang out a bit with eGGz, and Tasteless joined us as well, showed us around back then. And obviously, any young gamer that travels abroad and gets to spend some time with the magical Tasteless, I mean, that makes you want to come back to Korea real quick.
Tasteless does have a good way of bringing out the best of Seoul, Korea. And by that, I mean hanging out outside of 7-Eleven.
I was about to say, I've never looked at a convenience store the same way again after spending time with Tasteless. A lot of people
It is actually the best experience, though. It is.
For the people at home who have no idea what we're talking about, a lot of people like to go to a bar and sit around, have a couple drinks. Tasteless loves the 7-Eleven and pulls out a couple of plastic chairs and a plastic table, and then you just sit 4 hours late at night in front of a 7-Eleven and have fun times with everyone. Look, people go by, and it sounds ultra stupid, but I have to admit, it was really fun. I've always had a good time at 7-Eleven with Tasteless.
It's actually an awesome feature of Korea. This is kind of interesting, though, just to briefly mention what's happening in the ZVZ. eGGz did make a handful more lings, so not enough to be called a 2-base all-in, right? Ling speed's not even close to being finished, but just enough to, if they had gone on scouted, kind of like maybe bop a queen or a building 3rd hatchery, that certainly would have happened. But Erik, he scouts this, he does start up his own metabolic boost, then he has a Roachborn.
Yeah, I mean, in the old days, obviously, if we want to skip the baning nest, we can just make a bunch of Zerglings at first with speed. We run them to the other side of the map. We make sure that the fighting takes place far away from your own bases. And by the time that the link skirmish is done, and obviously you don't want to commit and throw away all your links, you've got roaches at home, and you save some gas by not building a baning nest and not investing in any of those safety banelings. But if your opponent picks up on that immediately and builds nothing but links and actually starts morphing banelings on your side of the map, it could be pretty hard to stabilize if you skipped out on the baneling nest. But these roaches are very early, though, for Erik.
Right. They're really weirdly early. 100%. Because in ZVZ, roaches aren't really king until they have a decent, a critical mass or they have good positioning. So if you think like, oh, I got the roaches faster than the other guy, I guess I'm going to win. Not really. Depends on what your economical situation is. So a lot of the time, these roaches, they wouldn't help this early on. It'd be a lot more about just how many lings you can bust out. And that's what's happening here. Erik moves out the middle of the map against someone who is making a bunch of lings. Is going to get surrounded.
Yep, but he does have a lot of lings and roaches himself. And now the banelings come into the mix as well. Banelings will get good connections with the lings. Can the roaches make it home? Can some of them morph into a Ravager? That could actually buy a decent amount of time. eGGz really needs a couple of extra units to show up because it should have been good for eGGz, but it really just isn't. Like, he is going to get all the roaches in the end. But now Erik also has his own baneling nest, so Erik can start morphing defensive banelings. And that is funny. Yeah, that's going to buy some extra time for the roach zombie girl. What is happening in our games today?
These roaches not want to attack, man. What the heck? Banelings are formed and 2 more are on the way. So as far as aggression goes, I do think eGGz has been stopped and he's better off trying to make some drones behind this aggression. But he's still building 6 more, so he's got to kind of get those ones done. He's really going for gold. He really wants to get the shot. He does trade out 2 for 2. But now, I think there's enough roaches now. The number of lings here from eGGz is not that intimidating. The roaches have a wall to back up against as well. So eGGz ling aggression is going to find a couple of drones. 3 drones, in fact. But it doesn't add much more. The thing is, he has a 3rd hatchery and more drones to begin with, so I'm totally fine with that. Like, again, the fact that Erik has roaches doesn't really mean as much to me as I figured it would, because it's so early on in the game.
Yeah, it's just very weird right now. Like, I'm honestly
is.
very confused. There is a lair finishing up for Erik, so he's potentially going to get the Roach speed very quickly, and Roaches with speed and +1 are very feisty. 2-base Muda, that should really not be a thing, and he doesn't have the drone count for it. So now Erik is going to get on top of this hatchery, and I feel like X is almost overly respecting this, even though without your own roaches it is going to be very hard. So maybe I don't hate the idea of sacrificing this base, but he is going to try to at least buy some time now that his banelings are done. But I kind of feel like a couple of banelings is all he has. Now his queens are going to be very exposed as well. I mean, X just has no army supply.
The roaches ended up doing their job, which becomes quite clear when they can actually be combined with the lings and banelings, mostly the other lings, which is basically they're there to put a body blocker on eGGz banelings. You know, there's a little addition that maybe won't end the game themselves, but they'll make sure that eGGz can't get this wraparound type situation.
No.
Well, if he runs out of his own banelings or his own lings, okay, then that does still get surrounded. There you have it.
And the roaches shoot at the debris there as well. All 6 of them shot at it for a split second. But I think that even though it looked a bit silly, Erik is going to be able to get away with this. Especially because he's keeping life very simple on his side of the map. He's still on 2 bases, but he's got a lair. And he has a spire on the way. Yeah, why make life hard? Why try to go up to 3 bases now when you think that could potentially get awkward, right, to defend all 3 locations at once? Instead, he's going to try to buy some more time with a few links in the top left side. That is going to be deflected, though, and X even has a couple of links coming in from the bottom. But the bigger problem for X is that now he's going up against a dude that has a Spire finishing up, and we have 0 Spore Crawlers, no Spire ourselves, no Hydra. Then, of course, is our lair is not done yet. And Erik is even going to get into the net with a couple of links. It does not look good for the man from Colombia.
No, it does not. It does not at all. The third hatch dying is brutal, not just for the obvious reason, and the fact that I think if he had saved it, he would have been able to pump out a handful more drones and been maybe kind of secure on 3 base, because you saw him eventually clean things up, right? But most importantly, because then it's a little later to getting its defenses up, right? It's a little later to producing another queen, it's a little later to getting a spore crawler on creep, and suddenly the mutas are able to keep eGGz on 2 bases, which really can't be allowed. You can play against a muta player on 3 bases for a long time. We see that plenty of eGGz. 2 bases, no, not really. So that's going to be a real struggle for eGGz.
Yep. Now, Erik only made 4 mutalisks, so maybe he's just going to use that for map control, force out a couple of spore crawlers, take out a stray overlord here and there, even though overlord speed is done on the side of X. So I want to say we shouldn't lose too many. And what Erik can obviously do is just build a lot of roaches behind this, and these mutas should be able to get him economically ahead. It's actually 6 mutas in total. We had 4 at first, and then we went up to 6. Little dropper lord morphing on the side of our Colombian Zerg in the right side, very random location.
It is pretty random, yep. I would not have minded a doubling down on the mutas because of that later through base, but actually only going for 6, I mean, it's still a nuisance, but that is 800, or the Spire included, that I don't think Erik had made that much of a lead for himself, although he does have a lead. And the mutas at this number really aren't that intimidating. They don't put a stop or anything else that eGGz is going to do. He just has to make sure his micros drones. I am a little surprised by this. Roach move outs seems like it won't do a whole lot, because at this point he's also seen that it's 6 mutas, you know, for a period of time that would tell you, okay, it's not mutas. So if it's not mutas, what is it? It's a lot of roaches. So what are your roaches going to do? Probably nothing.
Maybe this baning drop will be successful. A lot of drones clumped up here. You don't have to go for the natural, mate. There are so many drones here. X, let's go for this one. I kind of feel like we should go for this one. It's 18 drones. And yes, okay, we turn around. I think there is a jackpot here.
I think so. I think you're right. You know, probably hoping that the roach attack was going to come in conjunction with this, so it would be a real distraction tactic. It didn't, but it still got the 9 drones. A little bit less than I was expecting, but still good. eGGz, though, can he hold back at home? Right? At the end of the day, he was much later getting to the roaches, which could be okay if your economy was still supported. It wasn't, and he's now much later to that +1 missile. So he's just straight up behind the roach count. And when it comes to roaches, they're pretty easy to size up and say, yeah, I have more, or yes, I'm going to win that fight. At least when you're up, you know, +1 missile, it's usually a good time to try and move out, or even 2-1. Erik could actually hit with those upgrades.
Exactly. And there is a lurker then going down now for X, who I do believe had a couple of extra banelings in the bottom right side. He's got one more. Realized that the baneling drop was pretty successful. I'm afraid that Erik can just end it whenever the hell he wants though. But now Erik is also gonna get drop lords. He's gonna drop 8 roaches in the main base by the looks of it. And also zombie grub. I want you to know that I just spent 70 seconds trying to figure out why it was 800, 800. And that's why I know I've had a long day of StarCraft. You included the Spire cost. You got me there. I'm having a meltdown over here.
I said it though. I said it. I said including the Spire.
Okay, I didn't
on
hear
you.
that part.
All right. Yeah, this is. I actually think that eGGz going for lurkers, it's kind of like the Zerg equivalent of trying to dive for disruptor or something. It's a bit desperate, but if you can get to 6 lurkers and have them always in the right position, you might just be able to hold. Fortunately, it looks like Erik is going to push at the right moment. He's got 2-1. He's got 2 upgrade lead. He still has mutas in the main base with the drop overlords. Yeah, he's all over this. eGGz will not get a chance to get to lurkers.
Would be cool if we actually unload the roaches in the main though. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
With the mutas as well, but instead he's going to bring the mutas back into the center. He's got more roaches and he's got the more powerful roaches. And in the end, even though it was a very random opening phase where both players chose aggression, and it looked like it was going to be dicey at first for eGGz, but it was actually just the right amount of roaches to make sure that Erik was going to be fine. And I kind of felt that Erik at that point just hang on to his lead and close it out in a very calm and mature manner, being annoying with the mutas, gaining a bigger advantage, and then realizing where the openings are. eGGz is fighting till the bitter end, but this is definitely the very bitter end.
It is. It's the end of the game. So eGGz is just figuring out what to do next game, probably. But yeah, as far as the openings went, I did not mind eGGz opening, like the Ling swell. I did not mind that at all, actually. It's what Erik was doing, because Erik's Bailing Nest was so late, right? That timing almost worked out for eGGz, and had he got a surround of the roaches before their backs were up against the wall, he might have been able to use kind of the timing to his advantage, continue doing damage, and then maybe respond better later. But the follow-up, we got to see what the roaches are really intending on doing, right? They took out the banelings, they allowed their Ling buddies to actually kill a bunch of stuff, and they worked out great. But the initial part, I'm still, even though I was wrong, I still feel like the mass Ling could have worked out. Before the bailing nest was done, before the roaches were properly protected, basically, they needed to be like, protected first, then they could protect the Ling bailing. That might have been able to go well, maybe if he'd gotten us around. But anyways, it was a fun game, because it was fun, very different openings for ZVZ.
What I would have loved to see from eGGz is the moment he realized that, okay, I have a lot of links and I've got banelings that were secretly morphed in the bottom right side, but I'm meeting your army in the center of the map, that he would have just sent those banelings into the natural, or maybe leave 2 into the natural, rally the other ones into the main, rather than trying to fight in the center of the map. I can't blame him for thinking that maybe was going to be a good fight, because obviously he did have a lot of links and he had some banelings there in the mix as well. But I just kind of imagine, like, those are slow roaches. It takes a very long time before those roaches make it to your side of the map. Dance a little bit with your links, run those banelings into the middle line, and Erik, who's already a bit committed because he was down in workers, is suddenly very committed with his slow roaches. I think that could have been the play for eGGz.
Yeah, you're right about that as well. That also could have worked out. So, I mean, obviously, I think if we take out eGGz build order portion of that game and we think more about a standard opener, so 3 hatch into enough lings to defend, to live, basically, then perhaps Erik's attack, you know, it doesn't get interrupted, basically. He gets to his bailing nest, and then the roach is still alive, and there's no kerfuffle, because eGGz is only just now responding to what he's seeing. He's not already building the lings. And that could have worked out really well, but it just got a little bit of like a hiccup in between. Eventually still got the 3rd hatch, all was Gucci, and then, you know, going to that Spire wasn't very much that eGGz could do to punish it. So I could definitely see how it would work out. It just would definitely be one build to throw out in a best of. I don't think you do that as like the thing you do every single game. It's not a standard build.
Well, for eGGz, it is now or never, as his tournament life is on the line. This is the qualifying match of Group A. Getting this far in the Latin American region means you already walk away with $1,300, so it's been a good journey for eGGz so far, but winning this series would mean making it into the playoffs, and it would secure him $2,000. And if we took a look at those career earnings, that would obviously mean a lot to him. Let's see if he can turn things around with the 12 pool here on Berlin ground in the bottom right side. Hailing from Colombia, representing the super team, it is eGGz.
In the top left is the red Zerg for the cranky ducklings. It is Erik.
Drone pool, yes or no, Zombie Grub?
Yes, go for it.
I'm feeling it too. I'm feeling it too. If the Korean Zergs like it, I know X will definitely look up to a couple of those bad boys, Dark, Rogue, maybe even a Solar. I'm feeling the drone pull too. I think it's gonna get crazy, and I wonder how Erik is going to defend if he has some very... Man, his spawning pool is late, by the way, because he went for the hatch first, obviously, and then a very quick gas, and a much later spawning pool. Well...
Oh, Erik's?
Yeah, actually, not even that late.
Well, yeah, because he's not gone up to the Overlord. He's going for his own quick pull and hatch, but not as quick. So I mean, I would assume that this actually just hard counters what eGGz doing, which by the way is now drone pulling, so that kind of sucks. But I mean, maybe hard counter is too strong of a word. The hatch is going to be faster for Erik. He's still going to have the ability to make his own lings at a really appropriate time, his own queens at a really appropriate time, and in fact, his gas is going to be faster, so his speed's faster. So yeah, I think Erik's in a better position with this opener.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I didn't see that he wasn't making any drones. Didn't see that he didn't make an Overlord. I was like, oh, the gas is really quick, and that means that the pool is late. But then I look at his drone cut, and I'm like, wait a minute, his pool is not late at all. His pool is actually pretty quick too. So I am definitely with you. I feel like there was a somewhat similar scenario in another game that I saw a while ago, and I think the Zerg called it a build order loss from this point on. Yeah, Erik has a devastating counter up his sleeve, right? Because Zergling speed is going to be so damn quick, and X has no idea about this. You can't really expect Zergling speed to be done that quick of your opponent. Maybe
not this quick. Yeah. I mean, if he figures it out, then I wonder...
Wall off Spinecrawler.
Right, I was trying to think of what he would do from then on, because the kind of weird thing is that you would have to wall off Lickety Split, and with the hatchery only just now finishing, the creep has not spread. So then what are the other options?
Man, X actually loses the majority of those early pool lings that he snuck out. He is in trouble, man. Like, I actually think that X is just in all sorts of trouble. He's making a drone now. I don't think he has truly figured it out yet. He is going to move his queen towards the ramp. But yeah, losing the hatchery is kind of like losing the game. You can't really play this two base against one base, especially not if the only thing that you've got going for yourself is that you have link speed on the way, but your opponent already has link speed. If I'm Erik, I'm not even wasting too much time on that hatch. I want to see if I can get lucky in the main base, and at this point, he absolutely can get lucky. But there's the second queen, and I do love the very quick pull on the drones, protecting the second queen.
That was pretty good crisis management, 100%. It's still going to be very difficult to make this one work without Ling's speed. Just constantly get surrounded. That's much more inefficient fights. Drones are actually pulled to try and help. I mean, you kind of have to make the stand somewhere, and the natural is the attempted choice. As you said, you know, lose the natural is still lose the game after all. But this is the best you could have done, I think. You know, eGGz, but this was a hard counter.
I agree. I like the idea of pulling the drones there, fighting with a couple of extra links that are popping, bringing all three queens, but it is just not enough. Erik had way too many links. Erik just had the better build order when these two builds go up against each other, and of course didn't make any mistakes defensively. X is still trying, but he obviously knows that the writing is on the wall for this one. Down to 6 drones, 0 queens, no banelings, no roaches. This is unfortunately for the Colombian all she wrote. GG.